Welcome to this edition of Schoolfundr Sessions, where we talk with coaches, athletic directors, teachers, administrators, and parents about fundraising challenges and how Schoolfundr helped them reach their goals. I'm Connor Tinnis, the Chief Marketing Officer here at Schoolfundr, the best online fundraising platform for school communities. Schoolfundr is purposely built for schools and youth organizations to raise more funds than ever before, and to help you keep more of what you raise than any other online fundraising platform. With Schoolfundr, you get best-in-class digital platform that offers you all of the options and the oversight that you're looking for. Just as importantly, our economic model allows you to keep everything that you raise, except for about a 3% or so payment processing fee that goes to our partner Stripe. There's no setup fees, no platform fees, no subscription fees. So no online fundraising platform allows you to keep more than Schoolfundr. I'm joined today by Pat O'Connor, who is our Texas team lead, and by Clint Wise, who's the athletic director at Wayside Schools in Texas. So hello, Pat.
Hey, how we doing?
Very, very good. And hello, Clint.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why don't we run through a little bit, Clint, first about what the situation is at Wayside, kind of how long you've been there, and a little bit about the district itself before we jump into our fundraising discussion.
Absolutely. So at Wayside, we're based in South Austin. We have 5 different campuses, 3 elementaries, 1 middle, and 1 high school. Very, very small, kind of tight-knit community. We're a public charter school, tuition free. The cool thing about Wayside is that we serve a lot of very, very low socioeconomic status population. So basically a lot of students that would not have opportunities elsewhere have always had a home with us at Wayside. Population wise, we serve about 1,800 students, and about 300 of those are athletes. So that extends from elementary all the way up through high school. I'm going into my 7th year overall at Wayside, 17th overall in education and athletics, and looking forward to another great year with Schoolfundr.
That's terrific. Let's talk a little bit then about your experience so far in those 7 years with fundraising. Tell us a little bit about what you have tried in the past and the different types of fundraising platforms or groups that you work with, and some of the experience that you had with them.
Absolutely. So it's kind of been, and I can speak only for my 7 years being there, but it's been a pretty big evolution across the board, if you will, from an athletic standpoint. We started back again 7-8 years ago with an idea of, hey, we're kind of starting to grow a little bit as a network. What if we kind of introduce some intramural sports where everything would be kept in-house, and just kind of give the kids a little extracurricular activity to do after school? Nothing big, keep it kind of small, keep it in-house, like I said. At that time, we kind of just scrounged whatever we had. We didn't even attempt to reach out to fundraise. We didn't attempt to purchase jerseys, equipment, the whole 9 yards. It was just kind of a fun pickup kind of atmosphere. After a couple of years of that, it kind of started to grow a little bit more and more. And then we kind of sat down and we said, hey, we may want to reach out to kind of purchase some things to, enhance our experience for the kids, because it's growing. There's a lot more interest now. So let's kind of explore this and see where it takes us. So I would say over the span of the next 3 to 4 years, we kind of dabbled anywhere in between, besides going and just flat out asking some donors for help, reaching out a hand saying, hey, can anybody donate, sponsor? And we really didn't have much experience with that. So there wasn't a lot of success that came on the back end of it. So then we kind of steered our direction towards, well, hey, let's look at some platforms that are available. I came from a lot of experience back in the ISD UIL world, so I kind of leaned on some resources and the connections I had there. But what we found is that with our setup as a network and the way our population of student athlete works, is that we really couldn't dive into the meat of that, what it offers. So on one hand, we really didn't experience much success because there wasn't a whole lot of drive and a lot of effort to kind of reach over and get over those obstacles with it. But on the back end, whatever we did raise and put in our pockets, so to speak, was quickly kind of gutted from us because of the high percentages taken from those platforms. So we got to a point where we were entering into like official public charter school leagues, getting kind of more legitimized across the programs with our athletic teams. And so then it came to a point where it was like, okay, we're going to have to find something that will benefit us as a network that's basically going to be, in a long story short, worth our time, but that we can actually see some green on the end of it, you know, and not just basically give back everything that we've earned. So when we started our relationship with Schoolfundr, that changed the game drastically. So having an opportunity to raise money, put them directly into our athletic programs, not have a huge overhead or a large percentage of that hard work taken from us back to the platform has been an absolute game changer for us. This will be going into our second year using Schoolfundr, and last year, I mean, we can kind of get into that in a little bit, but it's hard to put a value on what the difference that made for our kids and our programs.
I appreciate that answer, Clint. I think it's a really good example of the dual purpose of what we're trying to do. One, to help organize the efforts on your side, right? Whether it's because there's a number of different programs at play or a number of different stakeholders and coaches there to kind of get everybody onto the same page to a single platform that helps keep things streamlined and efficient. But as you alluded to, also being able to help you keep everything that you raise so that you could reach those goals and hit those impactful budget numbers faster, right? The less that you're having to give up to the platform, the more that you're keeping, and the easier it is to reach those goals that you have. So, Pat, why don't we talk a little bit about the process of bringing Wayside on board, and then some of the overall stats that we were able to achieve in year one, and then we can talk with Clint about some of those details of why year one was so successful.
Yeah. So I reached out to Clint back in August last year, knowing that his role sort of oversees 5 different campuses and the one high school, but there's a lot of feeder schools that go in there, and thought there would be a big opportunity for us to help not just, you know, the school and the students, but actually the wider community at Wayside. And we talked through it for a couple of weeks. There's the obvious questions of like, is this legit? You know, is this, you know, are you going to do what you say you're going to do? And at the end of it, is the check going to be as clean as you tell me it's going to be? So those conversations took place, you know, back at the start of the school year. We decided to roll out in the first group with volleyball. So we managed to do at the high school level volleyball, basketball, soccer, and cross country. And then at the middle school level, we did volleyball and soccer. And we, I mean, very quickly found that the understanding between, obviously given my previous backgrounds in education, knowing the school intimately well, and the community, it allowed me to go in and understand who we're working with and how best to get the full participation from players, the buy-in from coaches. And I think that was like a key moment, knowing the community and understanding, hey, this is where we can push the button, and this is where we can push the boat out, and this is when we can't. And we I mean, we did a tremendous job year one. I think Clint was brilliant in getting coaches on board, which is, 98% of the work. Once they've bought in, and they understand that their job is not to do anything other than express the importance of this, and my job is to take everything else off their plate, it really lends itself to a successful partnership. I mean, across the 8 or 9 platforms, we talked about this earlier on. We ended up increasing Wayside's athletic budget 175% from the previous year. And the crucial thing about that is they've kept 97% of everything they've raised. Now, that also comes with me coming in and out of the school, and honestly, only 6 times, culminating in what, like 2.5 hours, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. So I think when you put that all together, and how smooth and easy the process can be from a coaching standpoint. So now Clint doesn't have to worry about, telling coaches, okay, you're not just here we're not responsible for the teams, you're also responsible for uniforms and fundraising and scheduling. And he can sort of take some of that off their plate and say, no problem, we've got a guy. Like, fundraising will be taken care of. Your job is to express the importance of this to the parents and to the players, and everything else moving forward will be taken care of. And I think that specifically in this case has worked out brilliantly.
Yeah, Clint, you've mentioned before to us the trust that you had in Pat, as you discussed coming on board to Schoolfundr. And I think, Pat, you alluded then to how that trust was really transferable then to coaches that maybe didn't have as much experience with running fundraisers or running them on a fundraising platform like Schoolfundr. So, Clint, tell me about how important that trust was, and then how that started to make things a little bit easier for some of the newer coaches that you had that didn't quite have as much experience with this.
Yeah, 100%. Full transparency, the only reason we're sitting here today is because of that trust factor with Pat. Pat, with our previous relationship, knowing each other, came to me with this idea and said, hey man, the way that things are set up with the network and based on your previous experiences, we feel like there's a platform that could really benefit you. And it was not a pushy salesman type of thing where it's like, yeah, you need to really jump on this and pushing hard with it. It was just like, hey, here's some ideas. If you're interested or want to know more about it, give me a shout. If not, no big deal. So that kind of going into it and knowing Pat's personality, really kind of jump started it from the get-go with me kind of being interested in it. So that, like Pat said, over the span of a few weeks, that kind of steamrolled and gained a lot of momentum to where diving into the weeds on it, discovering that, hey, this is legit. It's not too good to be true. It's reality. And so when I was able to take that to our coaches know me and my style, where I'm going to straight shoot everything. There's not going to be any gray area. In the past, when we've kind of taken some ideas to them and said, hey, here's an opportunity, basically, let's see how it goes. Fingers crossed, hope for the best. Well, this situation, when I was able to go to them with Schoolfundr and lay out the platform and say, hey, this is a no-brainer, the questions that would naturally come back to me were, am I going to have to do X, Y, and Z like in the past or no? And when I kind of eliminated that stressor, that anxiety from them, they got on board immediately. And like I said, from the get-go with the first sport with volleyball in the fall, it was all downhill from there. So that the beauty of us being very small and tight-knit as a network and community is that word spread very quickly. And so we didn't have to pitch it to the coaches that were kind of in the bullpen waiting for the spring semester. They heard about it. They knew about it. They already had a working relationship with Pat. So when their spring sport came around, it was basically just execute time. So that that relationship was key to getting us to that point, for sure.
We like to say that a little bit of organization up front can go a long way to having a successful fundraiser. And so it certainly sounds like the coaches were able to trust both Pat, but also the relationship that they have with you, that what you were putting in front of them was going to be something that was going to help them reach their goals. So that's terrific that everyone was able to get aligned. You mentioned the community and being able to obviously tap into the network of support that you have from the community, but you also have alluded to how the accessibility and sort of the wide net that you can cast with a online fundraising platform is really important too. So tell us a little bit about that, the accessibility and the ability to go a little bit broader than just the local community, and how impactful that was to get you guys to some of those numbers that Pat mentioned.
Absolutely. One of the key factors that kind of played a role in our decision, and really the success of what we experienced, was the ease of that accessibility. Not only were we able to reach out to, like you said, a wide net with the community and our programs, but the ease at which it came with for our coaches and athletes to be able to perform it, to pull it off, was the determining factor for us. So whereas in the past with other platforms where we had to poke and pry and continually stay on something, that process was not really conducive to how our network is set up. And I think that's why we weren't very successful with that in the past. But allowing and showing our athletes and coaches firsthand of, hey, this is really all you have to do with it. And the success that you're going to experience or not experience is just based on a little bit of commitment and effort. That was a game changer for us. So the ease, and like I said before, it almost seems too good to be true, but it's not, because the ease and the effort that you have to put forth, grand scheme of things, is so minimal in a good way, because you feel almost like at the end of the day, you should be doing much, much more than you are, but you're still reaping the benefits coming back to you versus a complete 180 from other platforms and experiences. So that accessibility, I mean, if we were to try to go somewhere else or try a different venue, it would go back to crashing and burning, especially being kind of spoiled to this process now. So that's why we're really looking forward to an even bigger success going into year 2 with that accessibility.
Yeah, the broad reach of online fundraising really can change the whole dynamic. That it's not just the local community, the folks that you can kind of walk down the street or drive down the street to reach, but truly going citywide, statewide, nationwide with the networks that your individual coaches and more importantly that the students have, to be able to tap into the support of that and do so in a really clear and simple way, where there's email reminders and text capabilities that make it almost zero touch on your end to be able to reap those benefits. That's what we're always striving to do. So it's great to hear that you guys were able to take advantage of that. So as we mentioned, Pat brought some of those stats about how well we were able to do for you. What's got you excited about year 2 as you guys head into to another school year?
Biggest thing we're excited about is the comfortability with it. We kind of, when we first started experiencing some success with our initial sports last fall, this time last year, it was kind of almost like a shot in the dark, where we thought maybe, lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot. Where we first started seeing those returns and the benefits of those initial sports, it was kind of like an aha moment, where we were like, okay, is this going to be sustainable? Is this going to be consistent, what we see across the board? And when the coaches saw that it was directly impacted by their efforts, that changed the game from a whole different aspect that I never even honestly anticipated. So I was able to spin that, and what I'm going to do really hit hard this year going in. We've got our big kick off the year coaches meeting across the district coming up in a few weeks. I'm going to be able to spin that to a motivational competition standpoint between our coaches. And that's something that they're going to really take and run with. And I can already see it getting rowdy in a good way, because coaches that have experienced the most success, we've got 2 or 3 programs that outshine the other programs in our district. So they've got those bragging rights to come back and say, hey, I'm at the top, and really use that as a motivating factor for others to, hey, come join me. And then what we realize is that it's benefiting our entire athletic program in general. So I'm excited with having the first year under our belt, knowing how the system, how the platform, and the entire process works, to now not starting at ground zero or from scratch like we were last year, really taking where we left off and keep building from there. So I really think the sky can be the limit going into year 2.
That's terrific to hear. And I think that striving to keep schools organized and keep everyone on the same page, and then be able to consistently do that year over year, there's so much value in, like you said, not having to start from zero, but starting from a place of success and then building on top of it. I think that's a terrific way to put it. Well, as we wrap up, Clint, are there any either words of wisdom, or maybe better put, what would you say to someone that's sits in your seat that is considering making a change, or thinking about venturing into to making a choice of an online fundraising platform? What would you tell them about weighing their options and the choice that they have to make?
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be several cliches, but I'm always been an anti-cliche person, where I try to sift through the nonsense and all the gray area and kind of get to the meat of the matter. If you're hesitant about either switching from a previous platform or trying this for the first time, the biggest piece of advice I would give is to just listen to a call for a few minutes, just chit chat. Doesn't have to get into the heart of the matter. You don't have to talk about statistics or details, logistics, anything like that. Just have an open ear to it, because that's where it started for us. I'll tell you firsthand, not only based on experiences from the past, but just knowing how the game works. I was skeptical at first. Our superintendent was extremely skeptical at first. That's something that I went to when I learned all the ins and outs of Schoolfundr and really how the entire process works. I was able to pitch to him and show him that this is worth taking a risk on. And throughout the entire year, like I said before, we were the only program in our entire school district that experienced a surplus, and came out at the end of the fiscal year budget in the green. And that's because of Schoolfundr. So our superintendent, our board members were coming to me and to our program and saying, hey, what are you guys doing? Just to figure out why this came out on the sheets like it did. So if there's any hesitancy, any kind of anxiety or stress involved at first, totally understandable, because that's where we were. It's going to be worth your while to take that first call, to set up that first meeting, because the risk reward is not even close. But consequently, if you're a company or an organization that has been tied to a relationship in the past for several years, it's still worth the call, because I mean, there's no comparison. So we could go on and on all day about that, but like I said, that's the biggest piece of advice I would say, is just be open-minded, because you'll be here the next year having the same conversations that we're having.
Well, Clint, I really appreciate you taking the time to not only answer our questions, but to share your story. Pat, thanks so much to you for bringing some of those statistics and some of the context to light over how Clint and Wayside were able to reach those goals. I really appreciate the time from both of you. And thanks everyone else for joining this Schoolfundr session. To learn more about how we can help you with your fundraising needs, you can visit us at schoolfundr.org to book some time to meet with Pat or any of our other folks here at Schoolfundr. You can also follow us on all your favorite social media channels for case studies, fundraising tips, all kinds of other updates. Just search for Schoolfundr and you'll find us there. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to sharing some time with you again soon.